this lecture, I will discuss about password authentication and password cracking. In this lecture, we are going to explore different authentication mechanisms. An authentication mechanism or method is a way for you to prove that you are allowed to access something. Passwords have been the default method of authentication for as long as most of us have needed to prove to a computer that we are allowed to access it. However, passwords are not the only authentication mechanism. There are some authentication methods are there. Number one, something you know. Example of this are your good old password, bank card PIN, or a safe word when the alarm company calls your home. These are all examples of using something you know to authenticate yourself. Something you have. Examples are swipe card to access a secure area, a code sent to your cell phone as part of a login process to prove you have your cell phone, or a secure ID token that provides a constantly changing code you need to enter to login access. All are something you have that can be used to authenticate yourself. Something you are. This is where biometric security comes in. To access our data center, we have to put our index finger on a fingerprint scanner after swiping a card. Unless you steal someone's index finger, you won't be able to access our data center even if you have stolen a valid swipe card. Other biometric systems include retinal scan, the blood vessels at the back of the eye, and iris scan, the color part of the eye. Other attribute used for authentication. A few other attributes that you occasionally see used for authentication. Somewhere you are, something you can do, something you exhibit, something you know. Our focus in this session is passwords. Most of us see them as an inconvenience, something you have to tolerate to be able to use a service you need access to. In this session, we are going to explain how computer systems have evolved in the way they process your password, how modern online applications do authentication, and why it is important to choose a strong password. Once you finish this session, you should have a knowledge of hashing algorithm, how password cracking works, and what strong password really means. There are different types of password are there. In the early days of computer and mainframes, passwords were stored in a database as plain text. When you wanted to sign in, a gatekeeper application would ask you for your password. It would take whatever you typed in and check if it was equal to whatever it had stored in the database, and if true, you were granted access. As the internet evolved and grew, malicious hackers started gaining unauthorized access to the system. Once they were in, they would immediately download the plaintext password database and have instant access to all user passwords. Developers and system administrators needed to come up with a solution to this problem, and the solution they came up with was password hashing. So now we will discuss about password hashing. Think of a hashing algorithm as a machine. In one end, you input any text or binary data. Out the other end, you get a number that is a certain length let's say 32 digits long. The data you feed it can be any size, from a few bytes to many terabytes or larger. No matter what data you feed in, you get a 32-digit number that uniquely represent the data. What is amazing about a hashing algorithm mechanism is that if you feed something identical in, you get the same 32-digit number. If you feed in War and Peace, you get a number. If you copy the book and feed it exactly the same text, you get the same number. If you change a single character in the novel, you will get a completely different number. Hashing algorithms differ in the way they work, and the most notable difference is the length of the number each one splits out. MD5 is there, which is extremely popular, split out 128 binary digits. SHA-2 split are there, 256 bit. When system administrator and developer first encountered the security problem with password database that store as plain text, they turned to hashing algorithms for help. What they came up with is, instead of storing your password in a database, they would just store a hash of your password. That is the number that a hashing algorithm generates when it operates on your password. When a user changes their password or when a user account is created, the new password is typed in for the first time. The computer security application takes that password and run it through a hashing algorithm and store the resulting number in a database. The next time you try to sign in and enter your password, the security system runs the password you entered through the same hashing algorithm and check if the resulting hash matches, then you are allowed to access the account. No longer are passwords stored in clear text in a database. If a hacker steals the user account database, they don't automatically have all password. All they have is a list of hashes. So storing hashes of password instead of password themselves was a major breakthrough in information security. The story unfortunately does not end here. Now that hashes are commonly used to authenticate user instead of plain text password, a hacker does not immediately have a list of all passwords when they steal the user account's database. However, there is a way for a hacker to steal hashes and turn them back into passwords. The method is relatively simple. When a hacker steals a database of hashes passwords to reverse engineer the hashes, convert them back to password, the hacker generates hashes from a dictionary of words he thinks might be the password that were used. If any of those hashes match with he has in the database, he has managed to reverse engineer a hash and now knows what the original password is. For example, let's say you have stolen a password database and you have the hash of the password that Merck uses. You want to know the actual password for the Merck account. So you take the word banana and run it through the same hashing algorithm that the password database uses. You end up with a number, and if the number matches the hashes in the password database for user Mark, you now know his password. If it doesn't match, then I try pear and apple pear 435 and progressively more words and more complex word combinations. So to crack a password, you need to take a very large dictionary of passwords and hashes, each of them Then compare those hashes to what is in the password database you store, and when you get a match, you know the original password. The problem is that generating hashes of words takes time. Each word might take a few milliseconds to hash, so you need a very fast computer to do this. Or alternatively, you can take a very large dictionary of well-known passwords, generate hashes from all the word and store the word and their hashes. Then every time you steal a password database, you can just reuse that list of word and their hashes. You don't need to recreate the hashes every time. All you need to do is match your list of hashes with hashes in the password database, and where you get a match, you have cracked the password. Alternatively, you can also create your own password by using a programming or a predefined tool. What you have just described is called a rainbow table. Rainbow table are a method commonly used by hackers to crack password databases that use ordinary hashing without any additional security. Rainbow table attack on hashes password database are very effective because they are fast. To help protect against these kinds of attacks, developer and system administrator came up with a technique called salting password. So now we will discuss about how salt works. A rainbow table attack relies on a hacker being able to take a dictionary and pre-computed hashes of the words in that dictionary and compare those hashes to the hashes in a password database. To defeat rainbow tables, the information security community invented salted hashes. The concept is relatively simple. When you create a new password, instead of just running the password on its own through a hashing algorithm, you do the following. Generate a random little piece of text, put the text at the beginning of the password, then run the combination of the little piece of text and the password through a hashing algorithm. Then you store the little piece of text as plain text and the resulting hash. That little piece of text is called a salt. When someone wants to sign in, they type their password. The security application takes the stored piece of text or salt, puts it at the front of the password that was entered and runs it through the same hashing algorithm to get a hash. It compares the resulting hash with the hash stored in the database, and if they match, you are granted access. It's important to note that the salt or little piece of text is stored as plain text with the hash. It's also important to note that the salt is random for each password. In other words, every password has its own special little piece of text. This is a relatively simple concept, but it makes cracking hashed passwords significantly more difficult. So now the question is that why salt makes cracking more difficult? Recall the rainbow table are a dictionary of words and the hashes of those words. In the above example, we use salt, the little piece of text, combined with our password to generate hashes. If a hacker wants to crack passwords, he can't use his rainbow table because the rainbow table is just a hash of individual words. He needs to combine those words with the stored salt to get the actual hash that is stored in the database. That makes cracking password much harder because it means a hacker's rainbow table is useless and it forces him to recompute hashes for every word in his dictionary. Here is An example of a password being created for someone called a good guy. The system administrator create a new account on the system for user called good guy with the password Apple. The system automatically generate a short piece of text YRTZT. The system takes the short text and combines it with Apple to create the text YRTZDAPPLE. It then runs YRTZDAPPLE through a hashing algorithm and end up with a 128-bit number. The system stored that number as the hashed password for that particular account. So when that person arrives at work and tries to sign in, he types in Apple as his password. The system retrieves the record for that particular account. That record is a hash and the text YRTZT, which is a salt. The system combines the word apple that the person just typed in with the salt to make the text YRTZTAPPLE and runs a hashing algorithm on that. The system checks to see if the hash it retrieved matches that hash it just generated. It does match and it allows the person to access the system. Here are some steps a hacker takes to crack the salted password. A hacker arrives and manages to hack into the system and he steals the database of password hashes and salts. The hacker tries to use pre-computed hashes of word in his English dictionary. One of the hashes is of the word apple, but that does not work because the hacker needs to combine the salt, which is YRTZT, with the word apple before he hashes it. The hacker realizes his pre-computed rainbow table is useless. He needs to combine the salt for that particular password with the every word in his dictionary and then see which has his matches. That means he needs to recalculate hashes for his entire dictionary, which is going to take significantly longer. As you can see from the above example, it is possible to crack passwords that use salts. It just takes much longer and requires more processing time. Hashed passwords that use salts are what most modern authentication systems use. It because it forces a hacker to hash every password that they want to guess. You now have a working knowledge of how modern password authentication works on systems like WordPress, Linux, Windows, and many other systems. You also understand why salt are useful, because they prevent a hacker from very quickly cracking password hashes by using rainbow tables. Now that you understand the benefit of salted hashes, it may seem obvious to you that everyone should use them when building authentication system. Unfortunately, they don't. There are many examples of custom-built web applications out there that did not use salts. They just use plain old hashes, and when they are hacked, it is relatively easy to reverse engineer the password hash using Rainbow Table. Now, why strong passwords are important? If one of the services you use is compromised and hashed passwords are stolen, even a teenager in his bedroom with a gaming PC under only $2,000 can try to turn your hashed password into a plain text password at a rate of 3.2 million cases per second, and possibly much faster. When you consider that eHarmony, LinkedIn, Google, and many other well-known brands have been successfully hacked over the past few years, it is quite likely that a service you use will have its hashed password stolen sometime in the near future. This means that it is important to use passwords that are very difficult to crack. Any password with less than 12 characters is weak, and also use uppercase, lowercase, special character and numbers. Now we will discuss about some important password cracking technique used by hackers. Number 1. Dictionary attack. The dictionary attack uses a simple file containing words that can be found in a dictionary. Hence, it is rather straightforward name. In other words, this attack uses exactly the kind of words that many people use as their password, cleverly grouping words together such as super administrator guy, administrator, maybe admin, or NPTEL 2019 will not prevent your password from being cracked this way. Well, not for more than a few extra seconds. Number 2. Brute force attack. Similar to the dictionary attack, the brute force attack comes with an added bonus for the hacker. Instead of simply using words, a brute force attack lets them detect non-dictionary words by working through all possible alphanumeric combinations from AAA1 to ZZZ10. It is not quick, provided your password is over a handful of characters long, but it will uncover your password eventually. Brute force attack can be shortened by throwing additional computing horsepower in terms of both processing power, including harnessing the power of your video card, that is GPU, and machine numbers, such as using the distributed computing model like online Bitcoin miners. Number 3. Rainbow table attack. Rainbow tables are not as colorful as their name may imply, but for a hacker, your password could well be at the end of it. In the most straightforward way possible, you can boil a rainbow table down into a list of pre-computed hashes. The numerical value used when encrypting a password, this table contains hashes of all possible password combinations for any given hashing algorithm. Rainbow tables are attractive as it reduces the time needed to crack a password hashes to simply just looking something up in a list. However, rainbow tables are huge, widely used. They require serious computing power to run, and a table becomes useless if the hashes it is trying to find has been salted, but the addition of random characters to its password ahead of hashing the algorithm. There is talk of salted rainbow table, exciting, but this would be so large as to be difficult to use practice. They would likely only work with a predefined random character set and password string below 12 characters. Phishing. There is an easy way to hack. Ask the user for his or her password. A phishing email leads the unsuspecting reader to a fake login page associated with whatever service it is the hacker wants to access, requesting the user to put right some terrible problem with their security. That page then skims their password and the hacker can go use it for their own purpose. Why bother going to the trouble of cracking the password when the user will happily give it to you anyway? Then number 5, social engineering. Social engineering takes the whole "ask the user" concept outside of the inbox that phishing tends to stick with and into the real world. A favorite of the social engineering is to call an office posing as an IT security tech guy and simply ask for the network access password. You would be amazed at how often this works. Some even have the necessary things to do a suit and name badge before walking into a business to ask the receptionist the same question face to face. Number 6, malware. A keylogger or screen scraper can be installed by malware which record everything you type or take screenshot during a login process and then forward a copy of this file to Hacker Central. Some malware will look for the existence of a web browser client password file and copy this, which useless properly encrypted will contain easily accessible saved password from the user's browsing history. Number 7, offline cracking. It is easy to imagine that passwords are safe when the system they protect lock out users after 3 or 4 wrong guesses. Blocking automated guessing passwords applications. Well, what would be true if it were not for the fact that most password hacking takes place offline? Using a set of hashes in a password file that has been obtained from a compromised system. Often the target in question has been compromised via a hack on a third party, which then provides access to the system servers and those all important user password hashes file. The password cracker can then take as long as they need to try and crack the code without altering the target system or individual user. Shoulder surfing. The most confident of hackers will take the case of a parcel courier, aircon service technician, or anything else that gets them access to an office building. Once they are in, the service personnel uniform provides a kind of free pass to wander around in the hidden areas and make note of passwords being entered by genuine numbers of staff. It also provides an excellent opportunity to eyeball all these posts it not stuck to the front of LCD screens with login scribble upon them. Number 9, spidering. Savvy hackers have realized that many corporate passwords are made up of words that are connected to the business itself. Studying corporate literature, website sales material, and even the website of competitors and listed customers can provide the ammunition to build a custom word list to use in a brute force attack. Really savvy hackers have automated the process and let a spidering application similar to those employed by leading search engines to identify keywords, collect and create the list for them. Number 10, guesses. The password cracker's best friend, of course, is the predictability of the user. Unless a truly random password has been created using software dedicated to the task, a user-generated random password is unlikely to be anything of the sort. Now I will show you how to perform dictionary attack. Now suppose our target is 192.168.0.51. Now let's use the tool Nmap to find out which services is running on that particular system. Let's wait for the result. Okay, here is the result. Port 22 TCP is open and SSH service is running. Port 23 TCP port is open, Telnet service is running. Port 80 is also open, HTTP service is running. Port 443 TCP port is also open and HTTPS service is running. And host name possibly VYOS and operating system is Linux and device is router. Okay, let's try to connect with SSH service using the host name VYOS. It asking for password. So I'm putting password as admin. Permission denied. Please try again. Okay, so actually I don't know the password. So to break this password, we can perform a dictionary attack. So to perform a dictionary attack, first we need a dictionary. So you can use any pre-stored dictionary. Otherwise, you can also use the tool Crunch to create your own dictionary. Here I am using the tool Crunch to create my own dictionary. Crunch, the tool name, then minimum length of the password. So suppose I am considered minimum length of password is 4 and maximum length of password I am considering maximum length as 4 and the character from where it basically create the password. So I am considering OSVY and then store this in the folder root my file and file name is pass.txt. So Crunch will now generate the password. It's total 256 password are there. It's basically store all possible combination created by OSVY. So now our dictionary is ready. So now I can use this dictionary uh, to perform a dictionary attack over SSH service. So to perform the dictionary attack, now I am using the tool Hydra. Hydra, then you can use as capital L to provide the username. So I'm using the same dictionary for username and password. So it's under root, then my file, then pass.txt, then dash capital P to provide the dictionary. It's also under root, then my file, then pass.txt, and then the IP address 192.168.0.51, and the service is SSH. Attacking SSH. So it basically try with the all possible user ID and password which is stored inside the dictionary pass.txt. Now suppose I know the user ID. So in that case, only use dash small l to specify the user ID. So Hydra dash l vyos, this is the user name, then dash capital P and provide the dictionary, an IP address, and the service name. Okay, we got the user ID. Login name is vyos and password is also vyos. So we got the password vyos. Now use this password to log in into that particular system using SSH service. SSH, then username vyos at the red IP address 192.168.0.51, and welcome to vyos, and it asking for the password. Password is also vyos. Okay, now successfully able to penetrate inside the system 192.168.0.51. In next session, I will show you how to crack the password using phishing attack. So Hydra is one of the tools which we can use to break the password by using the dictionary attack. Some other tool is also there like Encrack, Medusa. So you can use any of the tool to attack in a services which is running in the victim machine. Thank you.